All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tamika Moss, and I am the Secretary of our Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. And I'm really excited because today we get to recognize our continued partnership between the state and our local communities committed to addressing homelessness with a human-centered approach, data-informed strategies that hold us all accountable for the outcomes that we so desperately want for our community. I first want to acknowledge my teams from HCD and Cal ICH for their incredible work to provide rigorous technical assistance to our local jurisdictions through the application process. So today, I'm pleased to announce a spectrum of awards that will help us achieve our collective goals. Nearly $42 million of additional homeless housing assistance prevention, or HAP, round 5 grants will be awarded today to support the critical efforts in 5 regions across our state: Butte County, Orange County, Nevada County, El Dorado County, and combined Colusa and Glenn and Trinity counties. Along with our HAP 5 grants, we are also announcing 14 projects today that will receive $118.7 million in resources that are critical to communities up and down our state to rehouse people quickly and put them on a pathway to permanent housing, including in the Los Angeles region as they begin to recover from the unprecedented firestorms of last month. In addition to our HAP 5 and our Encampment Resolution Grant Awards going out the door today, we will also be making available a 6th round of multi-year HAP grants that total more than $760 million. HAP 6 will continue to provide funds to counties, large cities, and continuums of care to design person-centered, housing-focused solutions that are regional and provide measurable results to prevent and end homelessness in California. We all know that we have to continue the urgency in which this administration and our governor has been doing for the last 6.5 years. And in order to do this, we must act quickly to reduce homelessness, to expand housing in our communities, and get our neighbors off the street. Thank you all so much for joining us, and it's my pleasure to turn it over to my colleague, Secretary Kim Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Moss. At the California Health and Human Services Agency, we are working with state and local implementers and other partners to support better mental health for all Californians, especially for those who are the most vulnerable and experiencing the greatest disparities. Based on the UCSF study of people experiencing homelessness in California, approximately half reported having at least one complex behavioral health need. Mental health and substance use disorders put people at greater risk of homelessness, and the trauma of homelessness can exacerbate these conditions. It is next to impossible to get on a path to recovery while living without a roof over one's head, which is why the provision of housing is so important to our work. We are implementing a coordinated set of behavioral health initiatives, including Proposition 1, the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, and the Behavioral Health Community-Based Organized Networks of Equitable Care and Treatment, also known as BH Connect, that go upstream to prevent illness while making deep investments for individuals with the most significant needs. The accountability website includes 3 key metrics related to these efforts. The first is Community Assistance Recovery and Empowerment Act, or CARE. The CARE Act is a new civil court process and creates a new pathway to deliver mental health and substance use disorder services to the most severely impaired Californians who too often suffer in homelessness or incarceration without treatment. CARE calls for the prioritization of those who need help the most, providing a comprehensive plan that honors self-determination to the greatest extent possible while holding public systems accountable for delivering services and, importantly, the housing that is key to long-term stability and recovery. CARE is now live in all counties across California, as reflected in the dashboard. The second is the implementation of Senate Bill 43 related to conservatorship. Senate Bill 43 modernizes conservatorship laws to protect individuals with serious mental illness or severe substance use disorder who are at most risk of harm to themselves. Having the ability to conserve someone who truly needs it when it is a life or death situation is critical. With SB 43, counties have another tool in their toolbox, like CARE, to serve the most vulnerable, especially when they are in crisis and in imminent danger. You can search the dashboard to see which counties have already implemented SB 43, which goes into effect for all counties by 2026. Lastly, the dashboard shows the number of people receiving full service partnership behavioral health services. This level of care is intended to do whatever it takes to make sure Californians with the most severe behavioral health conditions get the level and intensity of services and supports they need to thrive in the community. One of the primary goals of a full service partnership like CARE is to support stable housing and reduce homelessness among people living with behavioral health disorders. By measuring the use of full service partnerships, the state has a greater ability to gauge the progress of local efforts directed at those with the highest needs. Under the implementation of Proposition 1, counties will provide more full service partnerships, including access to mental health services, supportive services, substance use disorder treatment services, the provision of medications for addiction treatment, outpatient behavioral health services necessary for the ongoing evaluation and stabilization of an enrolled individual, ongoing engagement services necessary to maintain enrolled individuals in their treatment plan, and more. We are glad to work with you across the California Health and Human Services Agency and our departments, and are committed to working in partnership with communities to deliver on the results of this behavioral health transformation and coordinated and integrated approach. It is now my pleasure to turn things over to the Mayor of the City of Riverside, Patricia Lockdoff.
Thank you, Secretary Johnson. Thanks for being here today. You know, as mayors of California cities, we're on the front lines every day tackling this homelessness crisis, transforming state dollars into real results. You know, as of last summer, the 13 largest cities in California used their HAP funding to stand up almost 16,000 shelter beds, serve 150,000 people, and place over 42,000 Californians into temporary or permanent housing. And we're not done. And today I'm here and I'm so pleased to announce that in the city of Riverside, we have ended youth homelessness. We've reached functional zero for this population, and we're seeing more exits than entries. And with HAP funding, we're now extending that collaborative model to our neighboring cities. In Riverside, we've been hyper-focused on those most at risk of becoming homeless, so we can intervene to prevent a worsening situation. And that's young people. And we found that when young people experience homelessness, they face a 5-fold risk of chronic instability as adults. And therein lies the opportunity to make an impact. So in my 2023 State of the City address, I launched the Mayor's Challenge to end youth homelessness with a very clear mandate. And under the leadership of our Housing and Human Services Director, Michelle Davis, the city convened key partners and together developed a coordinated entry system and identified 57 young individuals on our community queue. We then built our response as a continuum of care, addressing immediate needs and paving the way for lasting solutions using a 3-pronged approach. Number 1, establishing immediate relief. Through our nonprofit partners, we've expanded our shelter bed capacity, ensuring quick refuge. Number 2, providing pathways to stability. Case managers through one of our local nonprofits guide youth through the rapid rehousing program, promoting self-sufficiency. And 3, building permanent solutions. The city's housing authority, in conjunction with our community partners, delivered a breakthrough with the Aspire, a 33-unit permanent supportive housing community completed just last month. Here, 33 formerly homeless youth now enjoy the dual benefits of stable housing and access to employment and educational services, courtesy of our partners at Riverside County Workforce Development and Riverside Community College. This initiative really exemplifies the power of collaborating with multiple partners to harness all the tools in the toolbox and build long-term success. And the work continues. Our biweekly case conferencing with 18 partners has cemented a shared commitment to challenge and improve the status quo. We're not merely providing a service, we're shifting perspectives and proving that when smart, united community identifies and addresses its most painful inconsistencies, transformation is inevitable. So with that good news, I want to turn it over to our great partner in this fight, our Governor, Gavin Newsom, who's here with an exciting announcement. Governor?
I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. On behalf of all the Big 13 mayors, thank you for your stewardship and leadership, taking over the reins as president of the organization. We just had a very, I thought, honest, forthright, spirited meeting just a week or two ago, talking about the good work that you're doing, many mayors all across the state of California, and the imperative and importance that we continue this partnership, but with the kind of expectations that need to be set going forward in terms of accountability and driving that accountability along the lines of what you're doing. I know locally, we expect to see that being done all across the state of California. Let me just first sort of back up a little into what Secretary Moss presented, a little bit about what Secretary Johnson presented, which was laying out, for the purpose of today's announcement, some of the specific announcements. And then I want to back in to a new accountability website that we're putting out today and previewing. We're focusing, again, specifically on the distribution of additional funds. Remember, $1 billion we've made as a commitment to cities and counties and COCs, local government, to specifically address the issue of encampments. This is additional money on top of resources that are provided under the HAP program, which I'll talk about in a moment. So today we're announcing $118.7 million for encampment resolution funds. This is a process, a very prescriptive process, where we ask our grantees what the specific plan is, what the specific strategy is for removing and cleaning up encampments. That includes services. It includes addressing the underlying issues as it relates to the conduct of those and the needs of those that are impacted by these encampment cleanups. So $118.7 million in these funds. Just to lay it out, you can see here the totality of these funds that go from more modest investments, though significant, again, unprecedented in the state's history in places like Fillmore and Lake County, to rather significant, speaking of unprecedented commitments, in LA, specific to the 110 freeway. $45 million specifically to clean up encampments along the 110 freeway. We've been focused as well in Los Angeles a lot on what's happening around the LA River. You can see specific commitment to cleaning up encampments along the river, $4+ million in that space. So cities and counties, large and small, COCs, the Merced City and County, COC specifically, Redwood City, Modesto, Visalia, Long Beach, all up and down the state of California. This gets the total grants to $855 million. This 118.7 gets about $855 million. This has proven to be one of the more successful programs in the state, and I want to applaud all the grantees, all the cities and counties for submitting their proposals, for putting together specific, detailed plans. So these dollars aren't just about cleaning up encampments. Again, they're called encampment resolution grants. It's about resolving the underlying issues that led to the encampment in the first place. Speaking of accountability and speaking of additional funding sources, we have remaining funds from a previous distribution of $1 billion related to our HAP program. This is our program that provides broad discretion, though more on that in a moment. We're going to limit some of that discretion, but in the past, broad discretion for cities, counties, and COCs. A few years ago, we started tightening up that distribution of funds. As a consequence, in the last round of funding, there was a remaining $42 million that was not distributed. And that was not distributed because we were not satisfied at the state level that the applications were complete, and we warranted more two-way conversations. We wanted more discussion with our partners, making sure that these dollars would be more accountable, or at least the distribution of these dollars, that we would have more assurance of the accountability. So we're providing today the distribution of those funds, a significant portion of the 42 million coming in the Orange County region. As you can see here, 34 million, 34.6 to be exact. City of Anaheim, a big beneficiary of a lot of these funds, in addition to smaller counties from Nevada, Colusa, Glenn, Trinity. You'll see Butte, obviously El Dorado County, all recipients now of the HAP 5 funds. But the big announcement today is the $760 million in the new round 6 funds. This $760 million is the formula money out of that $1 billion. And this year's funds come with significantly more strings attached. The announcement we're making today on the notice of funding availability, the $760 million, requires compliance for a portion of these funds to be compliant with your housing element, requires more focus and more streamlined outcomes and data and results and plans specific for encampments. And it requires other more prescriptive incentives and disincentives as it relates to the expectation of accountability attached to those funds. And I want to expand on that in a moment, but I want to jump right in to this new website, accountability.ca.gov, accountability.ca.gov. Let's take a look specifically at this site. We can go to the homepage here. You can see some basic information that is an aggregated site that basically provides basic information about what's happening or not happening in cities and counties all throughout the state of California. Let's just jump right in to 3 specific examples. We target our focus on this accountability website to the 58 counties in the state. And you can see here, you can go by alphabetical order, Alameda County, Alpine, or you can go by population. Unsurprisingly, if you went by population, you would jump right into LA County. And there's 3 areas of focus on housing, homelessness, and behavioral health. And you'll see on this accountability site the specific metrics now that we have green, red, signifying success or alignment with state laws and goals, and areas where we have weakness and areas that need to be addressed. On the housing plans, simple. Is the county, LA County as an example here, are they compliant with state housing standards? In the case of LA County, they are. However, within the county, there are cities that have plans that are out of compliance. And you can see the list of those cities in Hidden Hills and Compton and Commerce, and we're working aggressively with those cities to bring them into compliance. You'll see the pro-housing jurisdiction. Again, carrots and sticks as it relates to those jurisdictions that are leading, like Long Beach, LA City proper, Santa Monica, City of West Hollywood, and others. On construction, specific to the issue of housing, how many housing units have been permitted and how many housing units have actually been complete. Again, basic information, but now aggregated information that could be made available so people have the opportunity to review. You can see further here progress towards those housing goals. We have these cycles. We refer to the RENA permitting cycle. Each county, well, not each county, but many counties run on different cycles in terms of the exact dates. But you can see specific to LA County, what's the progress? The question, what's the progress towards the housing goal? How are they doing on that 8-year cycle in the RENA? How are they doing specifically for very low-income housing, low-income housing, moderate-income housing, and above moderate housing? So you can see the areas, the gaps, areas of weaknesses, areas of strengths. So that's specific to housing. You can go back and now click on homelessness. And this is important. How did we do in the latest point in time count? How did the cities, how did the counties do as it relates to a number of shelter beds? How did they do with unsheltered versus total number of people that are experiencing homelessness? You can see here progress, the green representing progress in LA County, a decline in unsheltered population of 5.3%. They saw an increase in the total number of beds last year of 7.6%. And the number of people experiencing homelessness overall declined. Again, the focus of a lot of our efforts on the unsheltered population, you saw even more progress. As it relates to the homeless housing and prevention dollars, the HAP funding, that we are announcing today, the $760 million, specifically as it relates to their awards over the last many years. You can see the dollar figures to the specific, to specifically the county, not the city in this case, to the county, how much was obligated to the right there, how much was actually spent. A baseline question that all of us should have access to in an easy and understandable platform like this. How many people have been housed? How many people have been connected to services? And again, on encampments, specifically, how do we do on encampments? What has been obligated, what has been spent? It's the question I ask as governor. It's a question all of us should ask as taxpayers. If you've got money, are you spending that money? Is that money being wisely spent? What are the outcomes? How many people housed? How many people connected? I'll go back here and go back to other counties just to be fair. This is not an LA specific thing. You can scroll down, for example, just in the San Diego region, maybe just go to San Diego County and see how they're doing on some of these things. Back to issue of homelessness, just as a compare and contrast. You can see San Diego County struggling a little bit more. By contrast, last year, you can see the red in this case. Their unsheltered population going up, their number of shelter beds going down, total number of people experiencing homelessness going up. Again, gaps as it relates to money the state has provided and money that has been spent. Number of people housed, again, familiar information. So this is, again, every county has this tracking. Every county has this platform and this site, and that includes the three-legged stool. Go to behavioral health. As the Secretary was saying, you can see now on this behavioral health site, Care Court. Did you implement Care Court? Now, of course, everyone has a responsibility to implement it, but we're going to call out outliers. Have you gone forward and moved forward on your SB 43, on your conservatorship? You don't have to wait till January 2026. That's the legal obligation under the conservatorship reform. But to their credit, San Diego County is moving forward on conservatorship reform. And how are they doing as it relates to what Secretary Johnson referenced, this sort of smash mouth full service partnership for those with complex needs, those that need more intensive services, those that we would describe as the most challenging as it relates to those struggling with mental health, substance abuse, broadly speaking, behavioral health issues, how many people are actually being served. And so that's a top line. Go back to the homepage here of this new accountability website. Again, it's the first time the state has populated a site like this. It will allow people, the local level, those that are representing the people within their cities and counties, as well as those that they represent, to hold all of us to a higher level of accountability and a higher level of expectation. So the $760 million that we're announcing today, now again, will be populated once those NOFAs, those dollars go out and those programs are funded. There's encampment resolution grants. They'll be populated on this site. You can look at the data sets on this site. It has a number of data sources you can look at, which will back up and provide more detail, original sources, a lot of the sources coming from local government. We'll update this as we get updated. So this will be populated and repopulated with new data sets. Thousands of data has come in to provide for the information that we have highlighted here today. And as we get more feedback, as we roll this out today, and we get more feedback from the public, feedback from our partners, we'll populate this with even more additional information. So across the spectrum, more focus now than ever on accountability, maintaining unprecedented investments, targeting those investments to really focus now on unsheltered homeless, to focus on what's happening on the streets and sidewalks and encampments. And it's a long-winded preview. While it's true the January budget that I submitted did not have additional HAP funding, these dollars from the last round, as we're in the current fiscal year, now going out with more strings attached, I was very clear with the big city mayors, and I was very grateful for the dialogue that we're going to be even more prescriptive and more aggressive if the legislature supports additional funding to the cities and counties. Without more focus on encampments, without more focus on unsheltered homeless, I am not inclined to continue to support the funding to the cities and counties. We need to see results. And I think the last thing anyone wants to see is presentations like this from elected officials. They just want to see their streets and sidewalks cleaned up. They want to feel safe again. They want to know that their tax dollars are being well and wisely invested. And they want to have access to basic information to hold us to a higher level of accountability, thus the accountability.ca.gov website that we're putting out here today. I just want to thank not just the big city mayors, but all our county partners. I want to thank our representatives from these continuum of cares, these COCs. I want to thank all of my agency leads and James and the team for working hard to get this done and get this platform up. I've been very excited. We've been working on this for many, many months, and very excited to be able to share it now more publicly. And again, with the recognition this is an iterative process, and we'll continue to update this tool. And we want to make sure this is a dynamic tool, and it actually adds value, gives people meaning, gives them a little more sense of confidence that good things are happening at the local level, but not everywhere. And why we're calling out those, this is calling balls and strikes. And if we see that red, we got to call you out. And that's the final thing I'm going to say. If there's more money, if we do align with the legislature in terms of supporting additional funding as it relates to having a housing element, as it relates to a focus on unsheltered and a disproportionately even more aggressive focus on encampments, we also have to have a clawback provision. If we continue to see red, we just can't fund red because that's funding failure. And I think in the conversations I've had with the mayors, they get that. They're being held to that same higher level of expectation. The state should do so as well, and I'm assured our federal partners will be doing that to us at the state level. So we want to drive accountability down and again, down to the most important level. And that's where the federal and state vision is ultimately realized at the local level. With that, we're here, all of us, to answer any questions. And again, gratitude to our two outstanding secretaries that work so hard to get these resources up and available, and will do the kind of vetting of these applications that taxpayers deserve, and now with this website aiding the taxpayers and the public so they can be participatory with more information than they have in that accountability going forward. With that, again, happy to answer any questions.
If you're a member of the media and you would like to ask a question, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen and then unmute yourself when called upon. Again, if you're a member of the media and you would like to ask a question, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Alex Michelson with Fox 11 Los Angeles, you are first in the queue. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Thank you very much. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to homelessness spending. This is all about accountability. It's a lot of information out there. But I'm curious more specifically, what do you do with this information? And at what point when you see red, do you say it's time to pull back? How are you using this as an actual tool to hold localities accountable?
That's why I didn't put $1 in the January budget. And made it crystal clear to legislative leadership and made it clear to the mayors in the conversation we had. Again, a very honest conversation, tough conversation just a few weeks ago, that I'm not inclined to fund on behalf of the taxpayers of this state another $1 unless we have clawback provisions, unless we see results. We want to see results. We have to address unsheltered homelessness, encampments, and tents. We have been too permissive as it relates to encampments and tents. We need them cleaned up. We're providing unprecedented support. Now we need to see unprecedented results. If we don't, we're not going to continue to fund the excuses, not going to continue to fund failure.
Our next question goes to Lindsay Holden at Politico. Lindsay, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for doing this. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about what what cities, counties will be required to do in terms of encampments? You kind of alluded to that, but I'm just curious specifically, what are the new strings?
My desire, it's not mine, I think it's the public's. I think I'm representing the feelings of the public, spending as much time specifically on the issue of encampments and individually out there cleaning up encampments across this state. People want to see their sidewalks taken back. They want their streets safe again. They want to bring their kids, walk them down the streets, get to the playground without stepping over people on the sidewalks. They don't want to see the kind of activities that they're seeing out there, people using and abusing drugs and alcohol as examples. They want to feel safe again, and they deserve that. We put close to $1.855 billion. I just updated the encampment resolution grants, and we've seen real progress there. Thousands and thousands of encampments have been cleaned up, and hundreds of people have gotten permanent shelter. Thousands more have gotten touch points into services. And I want to see more of that. I want to see less of miscellaneous line items of support that we've seen traditionally in the HAP program. I want more specific outcome-based criteria if we go forward with additional HAP funding, specifically for encampments to build off the encampment resolution grants and to focus on unsheltered homeless as a top priority. We made some progress in the last few years on unsheltered homeless. You've seen a lot of green in a lot of cities across the state. Even parts of the state that saw overall homeless numbers up, a lot more of those folks were housed. They got more beds and more support, but we saw a decline in unsheltered. So a real focus, to your question, on encampments and unsheltered homeless, and again, a clawback provision so that we can redirect in real time money for those cities that are doing well and pull money away from those that are not producing the results that they specifically have to criteria in their application in order to receive those funds.
Our next question goes to Ashley Zavala. Ashley, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. My question is a two-parter, but they're intertwined, I promise. So first, I was just wondering the cost of accountability.ca.gov, if you have that number off the top of your head. And in that same vein, sort of in this moment of the existence of DOGE and a hyper-focus on government spending, this seems like a really user-friendly website and shows some really important information about where tax dollars are going. Is your administration exploring maybe other ways to use this kind of user-friendly format for other spaces? I don't know whether that's like the environmental goals or health or anything else where this, yeah.
Well, sincerely, I appreciate that question because the answer is yes, and it allows me to sort of mine the question a little bit more. The reason it's accountability, not homeless housing and behavioral health accountability, is exactly that. It's a new platform for us to do precisely what you suggest we need to do. Look, we have a lot of state agencies that have similar sites. We don't aggregate it. And again, the state lives not just from the state providing services, but local government providing services on behalf of the state. And so the critical missing piece in the past is getting that local information. That includes a lot of nonprofits, the cities and counties, hundreds and hundreds of local agencies, and then populating and putting it in to the state framework. And again, you have all the federal funding that is a component part. So again, it's aligning all this, and we've been scrubbing, we've been working across the spectrum to do that on a myriad of other subjects, not just these three matters. Number two, I think you recall we were out there, seems like years ago, but it was just a few months ago in the Central Valley. And we were talking about a lot of the work we've done at ODI and the work we're doing to streamline state government services and the civil service reform, et cetera. And I made the point even before the January budget presentation that we've been doing this for years and years and years. But we just need to now, I think, be more aggressive. I made this crystal clear to my team. We've got to let people know. People just don't know, and do it in a user-friendly way. And so this is the beginning. It's a preview of these kinds of platforms that absolutely we want to see more broadly made available. And again, it's a tool. It's a two-way tool. Hold us to a higher level of accountability. That helps all of us, transparency and accountability, but you need that basic fact data and information. Final point, and forgive the long-windedness. Engaged California. We just launched it for the LA fires and trying to create a platform where people's voices can be heard. And this is we just announced it a couple days ago, and it's a really exciting platform. And it's another example of a platform that we're going to be rolling out well beyond just recovery efforts for the LA fires. And we want to engage the public with this tool on a myriad of other issues, including on behavioral health issues, on homelessness, and the like. And so that's a preview of many other examples that we'll be promoting and rolling out in the next months and in the next year.
Our next question comes from Joel at Breitbart. Joel, please unmute yourself.
Thanks, Governor. Two questions. I'm on the website right now, and I see the results in terms of housing, homelessness, behavioral health. I don't see the money spent in each county. How can we hold the government accountable if we don't know what is actually being spent to achieve these results? And then a second question, do you think it is appropriate to sign $50 million of spending to fight the Trump administration while also asking the federal government for $40 billion in fire relief aid?
Well, I wouldn't frame the question as you framed it. The state of California, as you know, prepared many, many months ago for a new administration to protect and preserve our policies, our progress, and programs that the Trump administration is directly looking to deviate from. This is well-treaded territory. We were involved. I wasn't as governor. I served 2 years under the Trump administration, or with President Trump. Governor Brown served 2 years with President Trump. Over that 4-year period, there were 122 lawsuits. So there was some expectation that many similar efforts from the original Trump term would be replicated in his second term. And the whole point of putting $25 million up to the Department of Justice, our state Department of Justice, was to prepare for that. High-speed rail, perfect example. And in so many ways, we were prescient in that respect in terms of putting those funds up in anticipation of the efforts happening in the second Trump administration that happened in the first Trump administration. As it relates to the additional $25 million, that is not specific to Trump. It's about protecting people's rights. It's about getting people to get the kind of private support they need from nonprofits and other local organizations to address their anxieties and fears. And that was done in council and partnership with the legislature. Now, on the specific issue of money spent, money obligated, you'll look on that site. It does reference the money spent, money obligated, but I also made a point earlier. This is an iterative process. We're just rolling out the top line, and we're going to break down with more specificity, more detail, a lot of that information along the lines that you wisely and appropriately recognize or certainly reflect in your question. And I should note, there's so many based data sources on that and audits that have been done locally, regionally, statewide, et cetera. And so we've got to just square all of that, and we'll provide that information, and we'll be updating the site with much more detailed and nuanced information. Final point, though, the source information in this site, on this site, the original source information also provides a lot more detail in that respect. But we're just trying to clear that up and make it easily readable and ultimately machine readable so that it populates itself without the kind of manual inputs that are required today.
Governor, 3 more questions left in the queue. Our next question goes to Antonio Ray Harvey with California Black Media. Antonio, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, Governor. Actually, I have 2 questions. I'll try to, couple them together. Early towards your end of your presentation, you had mentioned that your administration is more focused on accountability than ever if you go back, lawmakers and communities were asking for audits. Before you got to this point, to build this, to provide this tool, were there some discrepancies that you were seeing, how money was spent or how it wasn't spent? And also, our second question is, you also mentioned seeing red. Could you clarify what you mean by seeing red if, things, pop up that, doesn't align with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so when you go to the website, you'll see the red indicating things moving in the wrong direction, meaning homelessness up, unsheltered, homelessness up, overall homelessness up, number of shelter beds going down, availability of services. And so it's just a simple tool that allows people, based on easy and recognizable color coding, to get a sense if things are going in the right direction or the wrong direction as it relates to the accountability and the investment. As it relates to the issues of audits, I mean, I was commenting when I was with President Trump. We talked about the high-speed rail, and there was some discussion well before the public presentation on high-speed rail last week around audits. I think we've been audited 100 times there. Happy to see another audit. At a certain point, you have audit fatigue. I think at the end of the day, people want outcomes and they want results for their money spent. Audits for audit's sake service no one, just services headlines. What people want is problems solved, and they want to see it. They want to believe it. They don't want to hear it, and they don't want to hear excuses and rhetoric. So I think that's really the spirit, and the spirit of your questions, the spirit of my response of what we're trying to resolve here, with no problem with audits. But really the tool here is about interactivity. It's about transparency. It's about a simple, we're not trying to overly complicate it, a simple tool for people to begin to understand if things are moving in the right or wrong direction, if they believe their own eyes or they don't.
And our second to last question goes to Angela Hart with KFF News. Angela, please unmute yourself.
Governor, thank you for taking questions, and thank you for, actually this website seems to be very helpful. Two-parter for you. First, on the funding, I just want to make sure that this is correct. We have a story running tomorrow, so want to make sure it's accurate. On the round 6, 760 million HAP funding, that's from the previously allocated budget funding of $1 billion. In terms of the newly proposed funding in your budget, that is the 118.7 million in encampment resolution funds. That's my first question. You also showed a slide pointedly from the progress Los Angeles County has made in reducing homelessness. Kind of a remarkable progress, actually, given even a smaller increase in unsheltered in the state and an 18% increase nationwide. There's palpable fear by state officials and local officials across Los Angeles that given the wildfires, that progress is really going to be unwound. And there's a wholehearted call for greater state funding to stave off some of those feared increases, just like really unbelieving that progress. So what say you to those officials who say in order to preserve the important progress, meaningful progress that LA has made, state really needs to pony up here on more state funding?
Well, we've provided unprecedented support, and so that would be my first response. Number two, we're here to continue to support all cities and counties, including notably LA, and impacts obviously this fires will have on their recovery and more broadly their progress in this space. But again, we're going to tighten up the accountability measures for every county, not just for Los Angeles County, Los Angeles cities, and the dozens of cities within the county. So we're continuing to work on that with the big cities mayors, with the legislative leaders, and we're hopeful that we can land on an agreement. If we can't, again, I'm not inclined to continue the level of support we've seen in the past without strengthening even further, despite a lot of progress on accountability and putting strings attached. I want to see even more. Now, it's specific to your question on the HAP funding. You're right. That's the current fiscal year that was just approved a number of months ago, the 760 million. This is the notice of funds that are going out with the additional criteria along the lines of the accountability that I speak to as it relates to housing element compliance for a portion of these dollars and other reporting requirements. But as it relates to the encampments, that's from existing funds, part of that overall $1 billion commitment, that multi-year commitment, of which this 118.7 would bring it up to 855 million of that 1 billion that would have been announced and advanced to our cities and counties and CAC partners. So that is existing money along the lines of the 760 million itself. Any additional money will be done in negotiation with the legislature, and again, along the parameters of the framework of accountability that we've described today. So I appreciate everybody taking the time. Thanks for taking a look at this site. Again, it's an iterative process, as I said in the presentation in the outset. It's something that we hope will be significantly improved over the course of weeks, months, and years. And to Ashley's, I think, thoughtful question, we'd love to see it expanded across a spectrum of other agencies and departments to drive more transparency and accountability to all state government. We'll continue in that process. We will be announcing over the course, as I said, of the next few months, some of the additional work that's already being worked upon, and we'll socialize that, and we'll get these sites up. And then with the Engaged Democracy platform, this engaged.ca platform, where we're really looking to get all of those that have been impacted by the fires in the Eaton burn scar and obviously the Palisades burn scar, to have a safe platform where everybody's voice will be heard, where people can talk more specifically about their concerns and their aspirations as it relates to bending the cost curve for rebuilding, addressing strategies on design, ingress and egress as it relates to emergency strategies in planning, guaranteeing that we're undergrounding our utilities and making sure that we're doing that work on all the horizontal work and aligning it in concert with other state agencies and federal agencies, and making sure we're streamlining the short-term debris removal as we move from phase 1 in the hazardous debris removal now into the formal phase 2 process. Again, it's been concurrent, but now almost exclusively into that phase 2 progress. Again, all of this and all of what we're announcing here today is about creating two-way conversations and about engaging more people in more ways, more days with their government, and holding us to a higher level of accountability and responsiveness in return to the tax dollars that we're distributing. Thank you all very much.